open and empty, Lord. We have drunk, Lord, the blood and the image that was in the blood, Lord. Pray, Lord, we are near. Okay, this war, like all other previous wars in Palestine or elsewhere in the world, will of course create, for those lucky enough to survive the bombings and killings, will create thousands upon thousands of refugees. The state most Palestinians have known since the 1948 Nakba. Here a poem of mine that tries to address that condition via refugees from another part of the world. Sudanese saying, one of the non-bourgeois of Calais, on one of the last days of the great emptying, i.e. the shameless hiding of the eyesore Calais refugee camps, called the jungle, where jungle is a translation of Pashto Zangal, meaning forest. One of these non-bourgeois of Calais reported a Sudanese saying to object to the refugees' dispersal, a saying that says solidarity alleviates pain. And this is how it goes. If we all die together, death is a feast. That poem is in the latest volume, Interglacial Narrows, and I will read from that volume. This volume is dedicated to Nicole Perrafid. For Niku, always lead to you. And it has as an epitaph a little quote by my old friend, the poet Robert Kelly, which is a mantra of poetics that I love. Wake up, write down. The opening poem of the book is an elegy for Anselm Hollow. 1. Eyes, 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 invisible the eyes, 1,000 crows on the snow, and yet 2 crows already make a crowd. 2. And yet we have to travel, Anselm, because there are wines that don't. 3. Ich trinke aus 2 Gläsern, as we both zackern at the royal caesura, the wandering eyes in the crow's nest between poem and translation, translation and poem, bringing it all back home. Minutes before breakfast with Mohammed Benis at the Hotel Zilis in Asila, writing outside, looking at harbor and beach. Here sun and air dry the ink as fast as I can trace the words, as far as the eye can see. Sea meets land and lands its waves, spermatically white, spill over flat, prostate sand. An islandology meets a nomadology. Here where Sidi Akbar danced his horse into Atlantic waves, did not yet force see America, that other shore, mirror Maghreb, west of this west, same waves, same reversal with different distortions. Excuse me for 1 minute. It must be winter. The nose starts to run. Marasma redirects to Knapholocrocia, which eventually lands me on the genus Medinalis, the rice-leaf roller, the species of moth of the Crumbidae family. If you want to know more, check Wikipedia. I'm sending you there as I have to go out now to make sure the blue of the sky is still holding up those beech trees and the others whose names I don't know and who may therefore be standing up on their own or possibly under different names, as it is only what we can name that we can knock down. Why do you think those people painted all those animals in the caves of prehistory? It was a school, not a pit or shaft. And the little ones didn't giggle as ours would, pointing to the dots, naming the rhino turds, but all together in their language, made up, that is intoned, the names of the living creatures we call lion, bison, beast, shaman, and have not only named, but called so often and killed when they came, now nothing or nearly nothing left, and the children of our children will have to relearn the names of the stones or whatever else may be left. Haiku for the end of the world. Gaia world. Sapiens, not so sapiens. Boom, kaboom. The art of the fugue. No, not today. This morning it is l'art de la fugue, or how to run away from yourself, to come to yourself. Through an outside, snow this morning and this afternoon, that lives up to and beyond your vague ideas of another behind, as from the other side of this page, the ink bleeds through my contrafugue that goes into das geht in die Fugen, as in between, das es kracht, my counter move and sound, mirror images, brings nothing home, except right now what stops my Sturm, this metaphor, that ink can bleed, or can it? Purgatory is forever, because the Barzakh is all there is. Paradise and hell, but momentary passages, the holes, in fact, that fit the sprockets of the daily in Fegefeuer's link chains. And the second section in the book is Cormorant poems. I did a book with Nicole called the Book of the Cormorants, or the Book of You, because it gave us the name, the way you pronounce cormorant in Japanese is U, like the letter U. So it's the Book of U. 2 for the cormorants. 1, the heart of the cormorant is at the head of its name. It wants more, but no rant. 2, we applaud the cormorant, even if the fish slipping down its gullet won't. Halfway down my morning walk, and a lament for missing fauna forms in my head, remembering yesterday's mantis and turtle with only a half dozen sleepy gulls swinging nonchalantly on the flat waters halfway between here and Staten Island. So this all an in-between, a halfway house, New York, when of a sudden from under the water a cormorant emerges, sits quietly for a moment, and then with Olympic precision, as it starts to dive back under another cormorant breaks surface 25 feet away in perfect rhyme with its disappearing semblable, a fallow corax da fort da, made my morning, and no doubt theirs too. Guano apoptosis. Before the ghost cargo appeared, you pointed wordlessly, smiling, two fingers in V-shaped. I looked at, then thinking better of it, I looked through them or their shape as if an aim-taking device, and saw one quick black thin streak that turned into two just above the water. You and me, you said. I'm the one up front, you added. Yes, I joked, you are, but I'll beat you to it at the post. Those were the first two cormorants of July. There would be one more higher up, two more going 1,000, then coming back, three sitting on the water and diving. One of them, the middle one, bringing up a good-sized fish and swallowing it, and us thinking, and you saying, wow, that was a big fish indeed. And I adding, look how it drinks water now to help wash it down. And you, as we walked on, wondered exactly how, and differently from other animal processes. The cormorants broke down those fish, arrived unchewed and whole in their stomachs to produce that major guano the Phallococoricidae family is rightly famous for. And you surmised that maybe the fish lend a fin, by somehow helping advance their own decomposition, which puzzled me a bit, but then I thought of Michel Serres' word, apoptosis, the small death, elementary suicide of cell, organ and organism, from the name the Greeks gave the fall of leaves in autumn, a fourth death, a word I gave you when we got home and which you are now working with in the context of our essay on the colonization of the island of Alcatraz, another confused bird matter, while I try here now just to get the facts of the morning walk down on these no longer so equal length lines, in the hope that on rereading I can clarify them, as one says of butter, yet into another cormorant celebration. There was one or two that I wanted to read that I jumped over because I only made a pencil mark and not the poet's job. Pick up everything that shines, discard the gold, keep the light. Trigonometry of the Trinity. And the Lord, having rested from his labors, sat up, looked around, and seeing how his critters had fucked up his creation, he raised his hand and put a bullet through his head. Thus the third eye came to be. The third section in the book is, James quoted from it, the section on Celan. The book was put together in 2020, which was the 100th anniversary of Paul Celan. And so I gathered poems I'd written in relation to his and his work, from the first ones in 1969 as an undergraduate at Bard, when I was translating him for the first time. Let me see what I want to read from there. Let me read two. One is an older one, which some of you may know from a previous book, but I gathered it here again. The Dream of the Desert in the Book. 1. The book lies open in all the hallways, in all the oases, in all the dreams, around every corner, behind every sand dune. In this dream, too, you have to add a line. Your place is between the already written and the unwritten in the white empty space. In this dream, Stalin smiled, and Heidegger too. In this dream, cockroaches scuttled from the book, but it had to be written in despite the smiles. A dream of a book, a dream of a desert in a book, a dream of a desert that runs from the book, a dream of a book and a desert, a dream of a desert in a book, a dream of sand through fingers, a dream of white, a dream of mica, a dream of phoenix, a dream of a desert spilling from the book into and through the hallway and out the door. And a voice said, write in the book and you will be healed. A voice said, my voice, my will, write in the book, write the desert, the dream, write the sand, the white, write the running, dream the book. 2. A dream of Stalin, a dream of Celan, a dream of parents, a dream of houses. In the first house, Celan hides in a closet and Stalin bangs his big boots and stomps over the wooden floor. In the second house, Celan escapes through the back window and Stalin screams and tears at his mustaches. In the third house, we are not. It is full to overflowing with all the parents, everybody's parents, Celan's and Stalin's and mine too. In the fourth house, there is a city in ruins. A moon stands above it. It is white. It is full. It has jebels and wadis on it. It is pouring with sand. And one more from that section, and it's the last one, the final one I kind of wrote on his 100th birthday morning. A poem or something, a gift, a song for Paul Celan at 100. Her hand, giant shadow, mit Bleistift, on ceiling with night reading light pillowed between us. Graphite's an uneven page on which I'll write, standing up in the kitchen. The good, no, the bad thing about night is it is always a pre-dawn. It goes way back, halftime between your birth and now. I, with a double breath turn, yours and mine, embarked. Before takeoff, father had asked for a shake hand. The poem is that, you said, and then let go. In not my mother tongue, in my future language, he knew, but reversed from early 1945 campfires in another night. A darker one you knew too. What had freed father drew me over. You already knew better, had August 49, heard Gordon Heath sing Climbing Jacob's Ladder. Quote, twice he sang it, the beginning and at the end. And in between, strange fruit and a fraud encounter with the blonde northerner, still and always free fascist doing Paris at your table in, not on, the Echelle. And we are climbing some kind of ladder, different for each, as should be, you to Paris, me to New York, both with faith only in no faith, the right to blaspheme as first right left, after the Third Reich fell then, and now the First Empire here is falling down, falling down. My first crossing between your visit to Heidegger and your first trip to Berlin ferried me across the Charlie Gibbs fracture zone. A transformed fault displaces the mid-Atlantic ridge, lands me in a thickness to be understood from the geological, and thus from the slow catastrophes and the dreadful fault lines of language. But it is there, in the fault lines, that writing starts. You wrote, Columbus eyeing the autumn cultures, the mother flower, murdered masts and sails, everything set forth free. But we ban that late loser, found or lost by people he murdered, and other, our atonement, I here still 50 years after your death, which is not that of the book, that which is not that of the book, that bourg stable staff as the beach is, as the tree is the book, die Buche, from your book Ovina, the first book, the one that has the autumn crocus, only a secret echo of the literally timeless name of their Kolchik, our autumn crocus, called up by reality to meet again in the imagination of your city, my city, all gathered in one stands brightly on no hill, but by the sea, even if a black sea, even if Colchis is and is not New York, from where I greet you this morning on your 100th birthday. What are we doing here? Whoops. I'll go to the final section of the book, which was written during the COVID years. And I kind of put as a kind of, I call it diuretics, a diary, but just dates as titles. 6th of June, 21. Woke up with lines from an old poem and the image of the kingfisher we saw yesterday morning in mind. Olson's kingfisher and Mao's quote, La lumière de l'aurore est devant vous. And later, nous devons nous lever et agir. From a speech given December 47, sets le la de ce jour, the tone of my day today. Those 2-3 steps now came back with me thinking not of sunrise, dawn, new beginnings, and this for me, for my new language, being in the west of my birthlands in America, alpha male, rich, bitter. But now at 73 of sunset, dusk, a coming darkness, but not mine as much as that of the new country I had chosen back then, this America, the morning after this bad excuse for a president as much as declares it the country under military control. Has the will to change changed? Or is it only my own old age pulling me down? No dawn left. I did see the kingfisher as black and white, perched on the rusted remains of a sunk steel structure in Calvert Vaux Park. It took off, who knows where to, but showed no ill will or no ill wind of change. 6.3. History is written after the catastrophes, Bertolt Brecht. 6.4. Darling's curve. I'm confused. It's not portly Ronnie I see. I mean here, brilliantly commenting on an early spring game, but a skinny, sharp-looking, even in those outdated uniforms, dude throwing me a curve all the way from that 80s game into my tired mid-morning, too early or too late, in my shelter-at-home base living room, and I'm happy to be an armchair catcher this cold morn, rather than a flailing bat out in the world. 627, the poet's work, not a line, not even a or his meridian, no, a border, frontier that is a territory, a width, overheard on radio, France Culture, image of poem as a handful of Mikado sticks dropped on table, needing to be moved, to be read. Allergie au chef de rayon de la poésie, allergic to the department supervisors of poetry. She who said it is Liliane Giraudon. Mother tongue, other tongue, langue mère, langue air. The idea of purity of language is as ideologically fraught as that of purity of race, country, nationality. The only thing that makes life possible is the meeting of different elements. They create life, not some white-bearded old dude. The only thing that makes the poem possible is that same meeting of different elements, a meeting that creates attention, attention that makes sparks fly, sparks that light up our nights a little bit or more if we learn how to keep the sparks flying. July 9th, thinking on Bati Weber essay, maybe around the fact that language is political. How then to justify my choice of late 20th century most imperialistic language? 7-11, memory is like a dog that lays down wherever it wants. That's Cis Notenboom, opening page of Rituale. But the official translation gives it as where it pleases, which is not where it wants. 7-11, pre-dawn poetics haiku with German Einlagen. The poem rarely a Hauptsatz, more often or better a Nebensatz. At best, however, a Danebensatz. At 8:45 a.m., on looking out through my father's eyes, or rather through his Hensoldt Wetzlar Nacht dialysis 8x5.6b, slightly longer, much heavier than today's binoculars, I remember his gestures, carefully pulling them up with his right hand to eye level, while left hand and arm flung back, shush little me, out hunting with him, mid-50s, early fall forests, looking for deer at wood's rim, just found and verified by those binoculars I now pull up to my eyes at Plum Beach early summer morning to verify the bird is indeed an oyster catcher. Dad would love to be here this morning. He is. Paradise is where land meets sea, where the outside of our bodies meets the inside. (11:18). You cannot look forward to your birth year. You can only look back on it as it becomes visible, as you leave it, as the years pass and you grow older. Do not forget it. I mean the birth year that anchors you in this world that is cave and light. Learn to read the drawings on its walls. They are your entry. 11:20. At 10:59 this morning, the sun stood still, had reached the Tropic of Capricorn, just as I held out my arm for my second Moderna booster shot. The side effects on arm and scalp seem minimal at best. The sun will make our days longer as it moves again. And I start a new notebook with many questions, happily or unhappily, quien sabe, unresolved, with a tough 6 months ahead. Keep believing in the sun as it moves and grows and makes more light day by day. And let me close with this tiny one, 12:23. The weather holds, will I? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great reading. We hope you will join us next week, where we'll be hosting Isaiah A. Hines and recent Roof author visiting us from California, Elizabeth Robinson. Let's hear, everybody have a safe evening, and let's hear it again for Tyrone and Pierre.